Whoa, fancy seeing you guys here. What am I doing? You know, just out here sipping a Mai Tai, hanging out, chilling while my character's just farming for me, I guess. Well, this is not a Mai Tai? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm having the time of my life just earning currency while my character is doing all the work for me. But yes, this is my brand new character. This is my Righteous Fire Recoup Lich, and it basically does Simulacrum completely AFK for me. So as you saw there, ooh, we got a Divine. Well, look at that. That was wave 13, and we just kind of sat there, tanked up everything, and my character just did all the damage necessary for doing that entire wave. As you can see right here, we're going to start us off again, wave 14. Just sit down and have my character just go at it again. But all right, that's enough funny business. Let's get into the character itself. This is my Abyssal Lich. It is level 91, named Today is the Day Indeed, and is currently rocking 122 strength, 76 dexterity, 204 intelligence, and it is rocking 1.8k life, 8.4k energy shield, 952 mana, and almost 400 spirit at its maximum. We are pretty much completely working off of recoup, so the armor evasion stuff doesn't really matter too much, though armor does help out a little bit. But we are doing full elemental resistances here, and we're almost capped on chaos, and we could probably do it if we get like a double socket here, fix up some resists on our necklace, and get this off of our desert rune and put another chaos rune into there. So we can get everything to max if we really wanted to, and spent a little bit more money doing so. Now, before we get into the specifics of the character and the gems and the passive tree, I want to talk about the character itself and how it works. This is basically a love child between the build that I saw a while back, which is the Abyssal Lich Ignite Snapshot build from this Reddit thread. He also has a YouTube channel, which is also by the same name, Hamdoodle. But yes, basically how this works is that this build uses Cracklecreep to basically proliferate ignites that you put upon yourself onto enemies. So if we go into this map right here, this decay map, I'm just going to take these tablets off because I just want to use this as a demonstration. I'm going to show you how this exactly works and how the proliferation works. So originally we start off by doing a big ignite with our flame blast onto an enemy, right here, boom. And with that, we get ignited on our character. As you can see, we have ignite on top of us, and that is how we do our damage. We ignite ourselves, and then we use Cracklecreep to spread the ignites onto the enemies. So you can see every time I walk near the enemies, they pretty much fall over and die, and into this kind of fiery chaos type of situation, because that's basically how the damage works. We go stand next to them, they get ignited, the knights get proliferated, and everything dies around me. And the other cool thing is that the ignited enemies on the ground, they also proliferate onto other enemies. As you can see, I didn't even get close to those enemies, and they started proliferating the ignites off of each other. That's basically how the build works, and why we're able to deal damage to enemies passively while they're just standing around us. Now, your question might be, how are you not taking any damage from the ignites that you're putting on yourself? Well, that's because we take two nodes, well, three nodes really. Self-immolation, right, first. This is what allows us to reflect the ignites back onto us. So right here it says, ignites you cause are reflected back to you. And then you also have a 40% reduced magnitude of ignite. We stack that with this node right here for another 15%. And then we also get this node, one with flame, to get us a total of 105% reduced ignite magnitude. So as long as you're able to get 100% reduced ignite on you, that makes it so that any ignites that you do to yourself, and you get, I guess, by standing from other people too, you're basically always going to be taking no damage on yourself when you get ignited, which is really nice because one, you take less damage from enemies, but two, it allows this chain to kind of function and allow you to proliferate the Cracklecreep. So that is, in essence, how it works, right? Big ignite onto enemy, comes back onto you, and you walk around like a big old furnace. Now, as I mentioned, this is a love child between two builds, right? So the first one was that Ignite build that we got from this guy right here. But the other build that we work off of is going to be Lazy Exile's Recoup build that she made. So it's basically a combination of those two builds because we also use Recoup on this build. One of the biggest weaknesses of the Cracklecreep is that it kind of takes about 1.5 seconds, as you've observed, for the ignites to actually get proliferated onto enemies. So what that ends up happening is that when you're kind of sitting around waiting, and you also really need to be like pretty close to the enemies, what ends up happening is you end up taking quite a bit of damage just trying to spread the ignites. What type of build doesn't really mind taking damage? That is a Recoup build. Because when you are using a Recoup build, any damage that you take pretty much all gets recouped back. Now, it's not going to be instant, right? It's not an instant Recoup build, but if you build enough Recoup speed and enough Recoup, it basically means that you're able to face tank anything that doesn't one-shot you, which is really, really nice and really synergizes well with this build. Now, one thing you notice again is that this is not the fastest clearing build. So if you're looking for that, this is probably not the build for you. But if you're looking for a kind of somewhat immortal build where you just get to walk around leisurely, cruise around the map, and kill enemies just by not pressing any buttons, this really is the type of build that this is going to be. And hopefully you guys enjoy that type of play style and, enjoy this character. Before we go into our gems, let's talk about our ascendancy, Abyssal Lich. Now, this is a really cool ascendancy that got added in 0.3. How you become an Abyssal Lich is by using this right here, Kolomok's Invitation. You'll go down, fight Kolomok, and after you beat Kolomok, you will have an opportunity to turn yourself into Abyssal Lich. And from there, you will basically gain some new abilities for your ascendancy. The right side, for the most part, stays the same, but the left side is really what changes. And the one thing that we take advantage of is this right here called Umbral Well. Umbral Well is really good for utility because it makes it so that your minions are no longer summoned, but instead you get bonuses for your minions. And every single one of your minions, for example, you have 2 Skeletal Warriors, 3 Skeletal Warriors, 4 Skeletal Warriors, right? They will add 15% increased attack damage. So you have 1, it gives you 15, 2, it gives you 30, 3, it gives you 45, etc., etc., etc. So it really stacks up super high if you have the spirit for it. What we take advantage of for this build are 3 minions. First one is Skeletal Arsonists. So Cracklecreep has a very small AoE, and as a result, we use Skeletal Arsonists to increase the amount of AoE that we have to make Cracklecreep basically do damage in a bigger area. The second one we take advantage of is Skeletal Storm Mages, which gives increased spell damage. And with this build, because we can snapshot our Ignite from our Flame Blast, we just have a weapon set that has the Storm Mages for our main Ignite proliferation one, or our Ignite dealer, and then for our main weapon set where we're walking around, just igniting enemies around us, we'll use the AoE from our Skeletal Arsonist. We also use Frost Mages whenever we feel like we need a little bit more survivability, mainly in Simulacrum. So that's another place that we can use these Umbral Souls as well. But for the most part, I run around with 5 Skeletal Arsonists and 3 Skeletal Storm Mages. You might run around with more or less depending on how much spirit you have. But that is why we use Abyssal Lich, because it is really, really good and flexible with Umbral Soul. The other thing, and the other reason why we use Abyssal Lich, though, is because we get to go low life. So Pain Attunement gives us 30% more critical damage when on low life. This is pretty old tech. Most people who are playing Lich kind of use this tech already. To explain how it works, though, we basically always run with low life. How this happens is we have our Ascendancy node right here, Eternal Life, that makes it so that our life cannot change while we have Energy Shield. So that keeps us at low life all the time. How you use that and how you get yourself to low life is pretty simple. You use Life Tap combined with the Visage of Aya. So when you have the Visage of Aya, it gives you Eldritch Battery. So it turns all your mana or all your energy shield into mana. So as you see, I have 0 energy shield right now. And as a result, I can now use Life Tap combined with Despair to get rid of all of our HP, bring us down to low life. We put back on our Series Disdain, and boom, we are now low life and our HP no longer moves. Really, really awesome. But the other thing that Lich specifically, and not Abyssal Lich, but Lich gives you, is that you get to take advantage of Recoup better than any other build. Because normally how it works is that when you're using at series to sustain, it'll make it so that some of the damage that you take bypasses your energy shield and goes to life. And with that, we use Sacrosanctum to be able to recover both life and energy shield. But the thing is, because we're Lich, the damage never actually bypasses our energy shield. But we still get the 10% reduced damage that is from this helmet. 10% damage taken bypass energy shield. So basically, the damage still bypasses energy shield, but because we can't take the damage, because our life doesn't go up or down, it basically is a flat 10% reduction of damage across the board. And then with our recoup, we no longer have to worry about doing a triple recoup setup, which is what the Lazy Exile build does, where she does mana taken before life, because we don't take life damage. So we actually don't need to do that as well. So Lich ends up being a better recoup character than most other recoup characters out there because of that fact that we actually never take the life damage. So we just get recoup for free, essentially, like damage reduction for free. So it's super awesome. And that is why we use Lich in the grand scheme of things. Now let's go into the skill gems. So the first one, and the most important one, is going to be Flame Blast. This is going to be where we get our big initial burst of fire damage to be able to spread to the enemies around us. For this, we use a second weapon swap. So it's always on one weapon swap, and that is going to be on the weapon socket with our wand. This allows us to get more fire spell levels from our weapon and our focus. And again, it is all in the purpose of getting as big of ignite as possible. For the gems, we are using Execute 3 because we are a low life character. We are using Eternal Flame 2 to increase the ignite duration to make it just a little bit more comfortable for us to hop from pack to pack without our ignites running out. We're using Searing Flame 2 to increase the amount of ignite damage that we're doing, Virgin for more damage, and then also Ambush, because we want to make sure that we're critting 100% of the time when we use our Flame Blast. Now let's skip over Despair, Rapid Assault, and Contagion because those are kind of useless gems. And let's go into Withering Presence. So Withering Presence allows us to deal more chaos damage by doing more wither to enemies around us. And then Blasphemy is there to make sure that we are taking less damage to help us with our recoup. And then we are also using Despair to make it so that we're doing more damage to enemies around us. If you don't have a problem with damage, or you don't care about dealing more damage, you can slot in Temporal Chains just to increase your survivability more as well. That is another thing that you can slot in here. But otherwise, we are just using Heightened Curse, Ritualistic Curse to increase the AoE, and also Magnified Area. I should actually have Magnified Area 2 in here, so I will switch that after the video. Again, we are using Storm Mages, Skeletal Arsonists, and Frost Mages as our kind of boosters with Umbral Soul. So you can see here with our weapon set 1, which is what we usually walk around with, we have Umbral Soul for our area effect, right, with Arsonists. And then when we swap over to our main damage dealing set, we have Storm Mages for the spell damage. We do throw in Skeletal Frost Mages every now and then, right? We'll probably go down down to like 3 Skeletal Arsonists and 2 Frost Mages, which will bring our energy shield up to 9.3k. You can also just take it all away and just go max energy shield if you really wanted to, but I think that's a little bit overkill. So you can really kind of change this to really fit what you feel like you need in the moment. As a result, this is a pretty flexible build that can give you a lot of utility off of just the Umbral Souls. Now, those are the useful gems, as I mentioned. We have some not very useful gems or less used gems. The first one is Despair. This can be anything. This doesn't have to be Despair because we already run Despair here. But we basically use this as a form of life tap fodder, right? It basically takes our health down quickly when we do need to go down to low life setup. Just use whatever here. It doesn't really matter. Same with Contagion. We don't really use this either, because unfortunately Contagion doesn't actually spread the ignites that we deal. Even though it's a chaos damage over time, sadly, it doesn't count for Contagion. We mainly just use this as a form of weapon swap. When we swap over to our setup to do the big Flame Blast, we then press Contagion to swap back. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. You could just press the weapon swap button to do it manually. But I just find that it's better because sometimes I'll press the weapon swap and I'll think I'll swapped, but it hasn't actually swapped. So with Contagion, we can at least have like an animation to show us that we've weapon swapped. Feel free to use it or not use it. Or you can even use another thing like Shield Charge, for example, to help you traverse the map a little bit quicker. You can use whatever you want there. Now, Rapid Assault is a useful gem. Even though I said it's not very useful, it is useful. It's just that we don't use it very often. This is what we use in combination with Scytha's Barbed Spear. Scytha's Barbed Spear allows us to aggravate all our ignites that we deal, which means that we're basically doing double damage with our ignites. Really, really strong. But you're not going to be using this outside of bossing. Even map bosses, I would say that I don't care enough to swap over to it. If you're going to go pinnacle bossing, though, this is going to be very important because it basically doubles your ignite damage. What you do is you go into the map, right? You take off whatever. You can take off the shield, you can take off your scepter, but you use this instead of one or the other. You throw on the ignite onto the enemy, onto the boss, right? And then you go and slap them with this right here to basically increase your ignite damage. So I will demonstrate to you guys now with Xesht to show you kind of how the bossing setup works like. All right, so here we have this fight with Xesht. I unfortunately don't do that much damage right now. My damage hasn't really scaled to a level where I can really take on T3 Xesht yet, but this is just to show you how the damage looks like and what you do with your rotation. You basically go in, you go hit him with the ignite. Oh wait, actually, we might be doing more damage than I thought. There it is. Boom. You ignite him, you hit with your triple stabs, and he's dead. There it is. Wow. That was my first time doing Xesht. You're seeing it live. And yeah, it actually does quite a bit of damage. So there you go. But as you can see, we swapped off our Shrine Scepter. You can swap off the shield. It doesn't matter. You go in, you hit the Xesht with your ignite, big ignite damage, right? And then you hit him with the triple stab and boom, he's dead. But yeah, that's the boss setup. Now let's take a look at our equipment. And the equipment can be a little bit complicated because there are a couple of swaps and also 2 weapon sets. So first things first, right? We have swaps for the Visage of Aya to help us take our life down to low life. That's basically all you're going to use it for. You're never going to swap outside of that. How this swap works is pretty simple. All you need to do is put on your Series Sustain, right? And then you put your Despair with Life Tap and use Life Tap Despair a couple of times until you're at low life. Then you put back on your Series Sustain and boom, you are at low life. Very, very simple, very, very easy. Next one, of course, is going to be your Scytha's Spear. We just swapped to it earlier for our bossing setup. Now we also use the Guiding Palm of the Heart because this causes the meteors to rain down, which basically enables us to do our AFK Simulacrum because there are ranged enemies. As a result, our AoE from our burns don't reach them. How do we end up killing them? Well, we equip the Guiding Palm of the Heart to have those meteors rain down to kill the ranged enemies outside the circle. So you can swap over to this if you want to do the AFK thing, but you don't actually have to. Like, I think most people who are playing the game, if they want to play Simulacrum, they'll probably just play it semi-AFK and not use this scepter, and they'll just run around with the regular scepter and just walk up to the enemies and burn them down. But again, if you did want to do like the full AFK fall asleep thing, put that on and it'll take care of the ranged enemies for you while the melee enemies will rush up to you and kill themselves, basically. But yeah, those are the swaps. Now, we also talk about weapon sets. First weapon set is going to be the one that we're walking around most of the time. This is going to be where most of our recouping happens and all of that. For that, we have a scepter, and for this, we want to have maximum amount of spirit. It could be Purity of Fire, it could be Purity of Ice, it could be Purity of Thunder, whatever you want. I prefer Purity of Fire because the scepter, the Shrine Scepter of the Heart is also Purity of the Fire, and we could balance our resistances around with it, but it's up to you what you use here. But for this one, basically, the main thing you want is as much spirit as possible. So this has 86% increased spirit, not like the highest roll, but it's fine. And then you want to try to corrupt it with double socket to get rabbit talismans in there for more spirit. As much spirit as you can on this. Getting strength on this is good too because it gives you more life, and more life equals more energy shield. So that's another thing you could get on there as an option. But again, main thing, as much spirit as possible. For our shield, we are using the Prism Guardian because this, again, gives us more spirit, which will let us get more of these Umbral Soul stacks. So that's why we're using this. Ideally, I think for me, I would either want to corrupt this. Well, I guess mainly I'd probably just want to corrupt this with another socket because that way we get more chaos resistance and we can get closer to our maximum chaos resistance. You can do whatever you want with the corrupt, but this is going to give us more survivability by giving us more block and also giving us more spirit as well. For our second weapon set, we have our wands. This is going to be our main source of damage, as I mentioned earlier. For our wand, we want to have gain extra damage as fire or gain extra damage as chaos. You'll want as much spell damage as possible. You'll want +5 to all fire spells. You're going to want to maximize on crit chance and crit damage. Now, the reason why we want crit chance is because, again, we want to make sure we get Flame Blast critting as much as possible. So we're going to want crit chance here and crit chance here and crit damage. But those are the stats for the wand, and for the socket, you can do the extra damage as chaos, but the best in slot socket is going to be the +1 spell levels. So it's going to be this one right here, Hedgewitch Assandra's Rune of Wisdom. This is unfortunately fairly expensive, 20 divs, so I haven't been able to afford getting it on there, but you're trying to min-max this build, definitely slot that on because it is a huge increase amount to your damage. If you can't afford it, the extra chaos damage is probably going to be your next best choice. And then we also have our focus right here. Increased spell damage, increased chaos damage, extra spell levels, crit chance, crit damage. Priority, of course, being spell levels and the crit chance and crit damage. That's basically what you're going to be doing, all to maximize the amount of damage that you're doing with your Flame Blast. Now, as for the other equipment, and we're going to start again with the other uniques. First one, at Series Disdain. This is basically used by most liches because it is a flat 10% damage reduction. This also gives us more energy shield because a percentage of our max life becomes energy shield. I only have 13 on here. Try to get as close to 15 as possible. I'm currently using an exceptional base. Eventually, I'm going to try to corrupt this into a 3 socket to get more damage taken recouped as life, but it's up to you what you want to do with that. As long as you have the helmet, that's the most important thing. For our body armor, we are using Sacrosanctum, another required piece of equipment. This will allow it so that our recoup can also recoup energy shield. We are an energy shield main build, so this is core. You cannot run the recoup without this. Now, with our ring, of course, Cracklecreep, this is also required. This is going to be giving us our AoE and our spread. And then for damage, we actually have a Darkness Enthroned with gloves socketed to it for increased magnitude of damaging ailments with the Manon's Rune of Cruelty. That is what we're going to be using on our belts. Oh yeah, and for our body armor, we're using Chaos Resistance and Chaos Resistance here. But for our belt, you can choose to use the helmet effect for increased area of effect, but I personally find that the skeletal arsonists are plenty for area of effect, and we don't need to use that. So I just choose to max out on damage here. For our other equipment, for our gloves, right? Survivability. That's all you need. Maximum energy shield, maximum life, and resistances. Ideally, I would love to use one more Manon's Rune of Cruelty here, but unfortunately, my resists are not quite in order right now. If I upgrade my gear, I should be able to swap it over. For our boots, very standard boots, right? But you do want to have the 100% increased effective socketed items to increase the speed of recoup effects from our convalescent soul cores again. And then for our accessories, you are going to want survivability again. As much resistance as possible, as much life as possible. And then for our amulet, you're going to want a couple things. First things first, +3 spell levels. That is very important for our damage. Second thing you're going to want is as much energy shield as possible. Third thing is going to be recoup as life. Damage taken, recoup as life. And the fourth thing is you actually don't need the damage taken to recoup as mana because we don't recoup mana at all with this build. We don't take that stuff because we're a lich. And then for the last thing, which is something I don't have and you should have if you can get it, is Spirit. Spirit will again allow us to get more Arsonists, and it'll also get us another Skeletal Storm Mage for increased spell damage. Spirit is very important, and you do want to get as much of it as possible. But yeah, that is the equipment. Also, for our flask, we are using the Blood of the Warrior flask. This is a really, really good flask for this build because we don't need it for healing life, right? We don't heal energy shield with our life flask. So this makes it so that when we press it, we get an extra amount of damage taken during this effect, recouped as life. So it essentially acts as a pseudo life flask for us. Very, very nice. Want to maximize the amount of damage recoup and also maximize the duration of it as well. Just a very, very nice flask for us overall. For our charms, I personally use a Stone Charm, a Thawing Charm, and the Black Cat Grounding Charm. Makes it so that shocks don't affect us as much, because shocks do, like, we do take damage, right? We still do take damage. That's a big part of our build. We want to take damage. But when we get shocked, we take too much damage. So that's why having this is really important. The other two are kind of optional, right? Even when you're frozen, you're not moving, it doesn't really matter because you're kind of tanking everything anyways. It's just more for quality of life that you don't get stuck in place for too long. And then for this, it's another quality of life so I don't get chain stunned. You can replace this for a gold charm if you really wanted to, but that's up to you. But yeah, those are the flasks and the charms that we're using for this build. Now, let's talk about our tree. This is a little bit complicated, so I'll go over everything. So first things first, we have two weapon swaps, right? The one with our scepter and the one with our wand. The one with our scepter is going to be what we're going to be walking around with most of the time. So we're going to want to maximize the amount of survivability and recoup we have on that set. So we go ahead and take every single recoup node on this tree, right? So we have recoup here, recoup here, recoup here, recoup here, and recoup here. Every single recoup node is taken by this build. We also take as much energy shield as possible on here as well. So energy shield here, 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 and unfortunately we cannot take the energy shield here because this converts our max life into energy shield. And what that means is when we put our Visage of Aya on, it'll still leave us with some energy shield, so we can't use our life tap to get rid of our life to go to low life. It's really annoying because this is a very nice node for energy shield, but unfortunately we just can't take it. But yeah, we take every single one of the energy shield nodes that we have around here as possible, and also the recoup nodes. Now, for our second weapon set, we want to maximize on damage, so crit. We take crit chance here, crit chance here, crit chance down here, crit chance over here. Basically as much crit chance and crit damage as possible to make it so that our Flame Blast does as much damage as possible. So, and we also take advantage of these like first approach, the damage against enemies or full life nodes as well, because again, we are doing damage to enemies with full life and then carrying that ignite to proliferate. So yeah, that is the weapon set setup. Now, for our jewels, we are using a couple of unique jewels. First one is going to be this jewel right here, Undying Hate, with a tribute to Amanabu. The actual like seed does not matter at all. Just as long as it says Amanamu on here, that is all that matters. Because we put this here in order to get this, Sacrifice of Flesh. This allows it to basically make the damage that we take be dealt over a period of time as opposed to a huge hit. At least 20% of it is dealt over time. So that's why we use it, because we use recoup. Our recoup is constantly recovering us, so making it so that our damage is spread across a time period as opposed to a big hit is very important, and this is huge for this build. The other thing that we use is a From Nothing Diamond, because as I mentioned earlier, we want these nodes right here, Self-Immolation and Ignite Magnitude on you, right? So with that, we get Ignite From Nothing with Pain Attunement, so we can get these without being connected to them, because we don't actually deal fire damage, because we are taking the Black Flame Covenant. This turns all of our fire damage from our spells to chaos damage. So instead of scaling fire damage, we scale chaos damage, which is also why we take this ring right here and this ring for Wither. So that is another thing that we're doing. We are also using a Megalomaniac here. The important thing for this Megalomaniac is going to be the one with flame jewel, the one with flame node. So you're going to want this one for your Megalomaniac. It's very, very cheap, so I highly recommend using it. If you can't find a Megalomaniac with this, you can anoint the one with flame onto your amulet and find a Megalomaniac with dispatch foes. You can interchange them basically. I also have Glaze Flesh because this allows us to save a bunch of points so we don't have to grab this. So it's just kind of, whenever it comes to Megalomaniac jewels, I know a lot of people ask me like, oh, I can't get this Megalo. I can't get your Megalo, right? Well, you don't have to get the exact Megalo. The point of a Megalomaniac jewel is just so you save node slots. So if you can't get a Megalomaniac jewel with Glazed Flesh, or you can't get a Megalomaniac jewel with one with Flame, you basically want to interchange them with the Amulet Anoint, and whatever you don't get on the Anoint or the Megalo, you make up for the other ones. Basically, what's required is one of these, whether it's your Anoint or your Megalomaniac, will need to have either one with Flame or it will need to have Dispatch Foes. And then the third one, Glazed Flesh, it can be Glazed Flesh or it can be something else that will basically just help you save nodes like distances. For example, instead of doing Glazed Flesh, right, maybe you can get one with Infused Flesh. And then instead of pathing towards Infused Flesh, like I do right here, then you path towards this right here, Glazed Flesh. It's just kind of like whatever you get. Just the goal of it is to save as many points on your tree as possible. That's kind of how the Megalomaniac works. Now, we are also running a Prism of Belief with a +3 to Flame Blast. Again, levels of Flame Blast, very, very important. We also have this jewel right here. So this jewel, you're going to want a couple things. You're going to want priority, Energy Shield. Next priority is going to be Ignite Magnitude, and then critical damage. For a fourth one, if you get a fourth line, you can get Ailment Speed, like ailments deal damage X% faster. That's another thing you can get. Spell damage is another thing that you can get. Basically, you're going to want Energy Shield, Ignite Magnitude, crit damage, and the last one can be anything that'll just increase your damage. So those are the jewels for this class and setup. And yeah, that about wraps us up for this video as well. I know the video is pretty complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces. This build itself is kind of a complicated build. So if you didn't follow something, I don't blame you. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any questions that you don't understand, but also the best places to get me, right? Number one, my stream. I will answer your questions when you're on my stream. Like I do my best to answer as much as I can there. The other place to catch me has to be my Discord. I answer my Discord very, very often. I have my phone set to have notifications for every single message I get. So that's another place that you can go and ask questions and I will answer them. Also, it lets you know when I go live and when a new YouTube video is published. So there's that as well. But yeah, other than that, if you enjoyed this video, as per usual, remember the best way to support the channel is by hitting the sub button. That is completely free and it lets me know you like these types of videos. And again, I stream every single night, so I'd love to see you guys there. And if you have any questions, again, ask me. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and hopefully I'll see y'all on my stream or on the next video. All right, guys, peace.